There's a kind of prison that doesn't have bars, doesn't lock with a key, and yet holds millions captive every single day. It lives in the mind, in whispers, in echoes, in imagined fears. And the worst part is, most people don't even know they're in it. They wake up each morning, not realizing their steps are not their own, but dictated by the voice in their head, telling them who they are, what they can't do, what they must fear. The mind is powerful. It can build entire worlds or destroy them before they begin. And when we allow our thoughts to command our decisions, we begin to shrink. Slowly, silently. A life once full of potential begins to circle around safety, control, hesitation. We say no to opportunities, not because they aren't good, but because our thoughts say we aren't ready. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. In logic, wait a little longer. It's not the right time. What if you fail? These aren't facts. They're disguises. Disguises worn by fear to look like wisdom. And when we listen to them without question, we begin to live lives built on defense, not purpose. There is a lie that says control brings peace. That if we think hard enough, plan well enough, prepare endlessly, we will be safe. But that's not peace, that's exhaustion. That's anxiety wrapped in perfectionism. And still, we follow it believing that maybe, just maybe, this time we'll feel in control. And yet, the deeper we go, the more trapped we feel. The mind can become a master illusionist. It shows us 1,000 possible outcomes before we even take one step. If you do this, they'll judge you. If you say that, they'll leave. If you try and fail, you'll never recover. We get so caught up in what might happen that we forget to ask, what if none of it happens? What if something better does? Action taken from fear is not strength, it's surrender. We avoid, we postpone, we justify. But deep down, we know. We know when we're not living fully. We know when the mind has become a dictator, turning potential into paralysis. And the tragedy? Most people think that's normal. Some people live years, decades, even lifetimes, reacting, not responding. Reacting to pain, to past mistakes, to the opinion of others. Reacting to memories that replay like a broken record. But to pause to choose requires awareness. And awareness is the first spark of freedom. Not every thought is your own. Some were planted long before you could choose. Words spoken over you. Beliefs passed down like old furniture. You'll never be good enough. People like you don't succeed. You're too much or not enough. They echo in your head until you forget they were never your voice to begin with. There is a voice inside many of us. Cold, sharp, relentless. It doesn't yell, it criticizes. It doesn't guide, it condemns. You should have done better. Why can't you be more like them? You're such a failure. This voice isn't truth. It's a wound disguised as thought. And the only way to disarm it is to stop agreeing with it. When the mind is in chaos, it will justify anything. Avoidance becomes wisdom. Anger becomes strength. Silence becomes strategy. But if you listen closely, beneath the noise, you'll hear it. That quiet longing for something real, something bold, something beyond the fear. And that right, there is where your true self lives, not in the thoughts, but in the courage to rise above them. We carry stories in our heads, narratives written long ago, often by others, but repeated so often they feel like truth. You're not smart enough. You always mess it up. You'll never change. But those stories can be rewritten. Not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice. You are the author now, not your fear, not your failure. You discernment is knowing which thoughts to trust and which to challenge. Not every thought is wise. Some are rooted in wounds, others in ego. others and lies. But when you slow down, when you tune in, you begin to recognize the voice of peace, the whisper that comes not from your mind, but from something higher, deeper, eternal. Even Christ was tempted in the desert, not with pain, but with thoughts. If you're truly worthy, prove it. The enemy didn't attack his body, but his identity. That's how the mind is tested, through suggestion, distortion, illusion. And yet, he answered with truth, not reaction. That model still stands. Respond with truth, not panic. That is strength. What if you took time to fast, not from food, but from thought? Just 1 hour without chasing every mental impulse. 1 hour of silence, stillness, observation. You'd hear so much more. The sound of your breath, the movement of your spirit, the quiet nudges you've been too distracted to feel. The soul needs space to speak. Faith is more than belief, it's movement. Faith doesn't wait for thoughts to align or fears to disappear. Faith walks forward, even when the path is blurry, even when the mind screams, turn back. The bravest acts are not done with certainty. They're done with conviction, with trust, with trembling steps that say, I choose to go anyway. What if your thoughts became prayers instead of prisons? I'm not enough becomes, God, help me remember who I am. I'm afraid to try becomes, give me the strength. To begin, it's not about ignoring your thoughts. It's about transforming them, offering them, letting God reshape them into something holy. The body is honest. It tells you what the mind won't. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, a knot in your stomach. These are the echoes of thought. You may say, I'm fine, but your body knows better. Learn to listen, not to obey the fear, but to trace it to its source and speak peace into the tension. Discipline doesn't mean force, it means focus. Every time your mind wanders into panic, you bring it back, gently, not with shame, but with resolve. No, I'm not going down that road again. And the more you redirect, the stronger you become. It's not about control, it's about care. You can choose even when afraid, especially when afraid. That's when choice matters most. Not when things are easy, but when your whole being says, stay safe, and you still whisper, no, it's time to grow. Action in fear is not recklessness. It's resistance. And resistance to fear is how freedom begins. The mind quiets in the presence of miracles. Not the grand ones, but the daily ones. A stranger's smile, a moment of peace you didn't expect, a prayer answered in silence. The mind can't explain those things, and that's the point. Love, grace, transformation, they happen beyond thought, beyond control. They happen when you step out of the head and into the heart. Perfection is one of the mind's favorite traps. It tells you that unless everything is flawless, it's not worth starting. That if you can't guarantee success, you shouldn't even try. So you wait, you tweak, you overanalyze, and time keeps slipping. Perfection paralyzes, while love, courage, and faith move in the messy, imperfect spaces of action. Doubt doesn't ask permission. It creeps in quietly, even in your strongest moments. And if left unchecked, it grows roots. You begin to question everything, even what you know in your soul to be true. Doubt is not the enemy, but obeying it without question is. You don't have to silence doubt to move forward. You just have to stop letting it lead. The past has a voice, and it speaks in memory, regret, and shame. It replays the scenes you wish you could forget over and over until you start believing you're still there. But here's the truth. You are not your past. You are not the thoughts shaped by it. Every time you act with courage in the present, you prove the past has no power over your future. We often long for change, while fearing the discomfort that comes with it. Our thoughts say, what if it hurts? What if I lose something? What if I don't make it? So we wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. The truth? Change is always uncomfortable. But staying stuck is painful in a different way, quieter, but deeper. The cost of inaction is always greater. Thoughts can't be erased, but they can be overruled. You don't have to wait for clarity to act. Action creates clarity. Each step you take, even trembling, tells your mind, I'm in charge now. Not the fear, not the doubt, not the noise. Just me choosing on purpose, despite the voices. There's power in silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of observation. When you learn to sit with your thoughts without obeying them, they lose their grip. You realize they're just that, thoughts, not commands, not truths, just passing clouds. And you're the sky. You are not your thoughts. That single truth can set you free. Your thoughts can be anxious, angry, dark, or distracted, but they are not you. They are events. Electric currents. They come and go. But you are the one who sees them, chooses them, directs them. And when you remember that, the mind becomes a tool, not a tyrant. There is space between the thought and the action. A sacred, silent pause. In that pause, you are free. Free to respond instead of react. Free to question instead of assume. Free to choose love over fear. Most people rush past this space. But if you learn to live in it, your whole life changes. To act despite your thoughts is not denial. It's mastery. It means you heard the fear and moved anyway. You felt the doubt and showed up anyway. That's strength. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, quiet, consistent. And that kind of strength builds a life rooted in truth, not emotion. The present moment is your only anchor. Thoughts pull you forward and back, regret in one hand, fear in the other. But right here, right now, this is where power lives. In your breath, in your body, in your choice to act, not because the mind gives you permission, but because your soul knows it's time. True freedom isn't the absence of thought, it's the ability to act without being enslaved by it. Imagine waking up and moving through your day not ruled by fear or doubt or guilt, but by quiet resolve. That doesn't mean the thoughts stop. It means they no longer sit on the throne. Your heart does. Your values do. Your faith does. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop needing all the answers. When you realize that understanding everything is not a requirement for taking the next step. The mind wants certainty. But love, growth, calling, they require trust. And when you choose trust, the noise fades. Not all at once, but enough to hear what truly matters. Silence is sacred, not because nothing is happening, but because in silence, everything becomes visible. The fears you've been suppressing, the dreams you've been ignoring, the lies you've been repeating. And yet, silence doesn't condemn. It reveals. It invites. It asks you to come back home to yourself. Emotional discipline is not suppression. It's stewardship. It's choosing how to express your emotions instead of letting them dictate your behavior. Thoughts may stir emotions, but emotions don't have to stir destruction. You can feel everything deeply and still choose to act with grace. There are thoughts that once seemed like truth, so convincing, so loud, so repeated, that they shaped your identity. But truth doesn't keep you small. Truth expands. It lifts. It aligns with peace. And if a thought keeps you afraid, ashamed, or stuck, maybe it was never truth to begin with. There is power in the pause between the trigger and the response. That split second is where transformation lives. Most people skip it. But if you learn to breathe there, to wait there, to question before reacting, everything changes. The pause becomes a sanctuary, a holy ground where you reclaim your authority. Renewing the mind is not a one-time event. It is daily work. It's catching a lie and replacing it with truth. It's noticing a spiral and stopping the fall. It's standing guard at the gate of your thoughts, not as a prisoner, but as a protector. And the more you do it, the more. The mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. Imagine your thoughts like clouds drifting across the sky. Some dark, some light. Some move fast, others linger. But none of them are the sky. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. Wide, still, spacious enough to observe without attaching. When you stop clinging to every thought, you begin to live in peace again. Fear is not your master. It's a messenger. It says, pay attention. This matters. Be careful. And that's fine, listen. But don't hand over the keys. Fear can ride in the back seat, but it should never be driving your decisions. Wisdom listens to fear, but it obeys faith. The mind is a servant, a brilliant, powerful, capable servant. But it was never meant to be king. When the mind rules, love shrinks, joy fades, presence dissolves. But when the soul takes the lead, the mind finds its rightful place, no longer the ruler of your life, but the tool that builds it. There is a kind of truth that doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't panic. It simply stands, firm, clear, unshaken. And when you find it, not in the mind, but in the spirit, it frees you. Not from problems, but from the prison of false beliefs. That kind of truth is not a concept. It's a weapon. And it cuts through every mental chain you've carried for years. Somewhere between the thinking and the believing, the heart wrestles. The mind says, you're not ready. Faith says, go anyway. The mind says, what if you fail? Faith says, what if you rise? The war is real, but so is the victory. And it doesn't go to the strongest. It goes to the one who obeys what is eternal, not what is loud. You are not your mind. You never were. You are not the storm. You are the one who walks through it, the one who watches it pass, the one who remains. There is a deeper identity waiting beneath the noise. And when you live from that place, no thought can own you. No fear can stop you. No past can define you. Willpower is not about gritting your teeth. It's about remembering your authority. You've been given dominion, not over the world, but over yourself. Your thoughts are not in charge unless you let them be. And every time you act with clarity, purpose, and faith, you remind your mind who's really in control. You can love, even when your thoughts tell you to shut down. You can forgive, even when the mind says they don't deserve it. You can be kind, even when your head floods with reasons not to be. That is power. Not the kind the world celebrates, but the kind that builds eternity. Obedience is not weakness. It is sacrifice. The decision to follow something higher than your fear, to surrender to a mission greater than your mood. You will not always feel like doing what is right, but you don't need to feel it to do it. You need only remember who you belong to. There is a spirit that renews what the mind cannot fix. It doesn't explain. It restores. It doesn't debate. It delivers. When you invite that spirit in, your thoughts lose their grip, not because they vanish, but because something stronger takes their place. A peace that passes understanding. A clarity that confuses the wise. When the soul kneels, the mind must bow. In the presence of the sacred, overthinking fades. Logic becomes silence. And silence becomes surrender. This is not the end of thought, but the beginning of reverence. Reverence for the God who sees beyond your thoughts, who knows your heart, who leads you anyway. And now, you know, weak is he who permits his thoughts to control his actions. But strong is the one who sees his thoughts and still chooses what is right, who feels fear and still steps forward. who hears the noise, but moves with peace. That is strength. That is freedom. That is you. So today, act. Not because your mind agrees, but because your heart is ready, because your spirit is awake, because your time is now. The mind may speak, but you choose. And that choice will shape your life more than any thought ever could.